Spark plug replacement is usually considered a trivial task on most cars, but on the N55 motor, it's a bit of a chore. It's not hard, it's just tedious. There's already a great video that details the entire process, so that's not what this video will be. This will just be a supplementary video to that one. I'll link it in the description. I just found a few things that are worth mentioning, so that's what this video will be. First, let's discuss the tools you'll need. You'll absolutely need a thin wall 14mm spark plug socket. A standard socket won't fit because it's too thick. I'll put a link to all of this stuff in the video description. You also need a plug gapper. Don't use a crappy coin type that you find on the counter of your local parts store. Those damage the plug tips. You're supposed to bend the arm using a proper tool instead. My gapper doesn't go thin enough, so I just use it to do the arm bending, and then I use a feeler set to check the gap size. Don't go cheap and use a $1 plug gapper and break the platinum tip off of your expensive spark plugs. The plugs recommended for this car are over $20 a piece. Do it correctly. You'll either want a locking extension set or use electrical tape like I did. I do have a locking extension set, but the actual plug socket doesn't have a big enough detent, so it slides off easily. The electrical tape held it on there nice and snug. You'll want socket extensions, not just one. You'll want a set of at least 3 of different sizes, so then you can use different combinations to get different lengths, and you'll definitely need it for a job like this. It's completely optional, but a U-joint for your socket set, it'll make life a lot easier, especially for the number 5 plug because it sits directly under the strut brace. You could probably do it without it, but you'll be swapping extensions midway through unscrewing the plug because you'll start off at one height, and then once it's unscrewed enough, you'll get up to where you're hitting the strut brace. So then at that point, you'll need to swap lengths. It's completely optional, but you'll need to undo one plastic rivet. You can get this easily with a flathead screwdriver or a knife, but having a proper set of trim tools, it never hurts. I've used mine a ton. For example, if you ever do bumper stuff, like pull your bumper off, the bottoms of the bumpers have a ton of them, the plastic rivets, and the rivet tools are definitely easier to use, and they're not expensive, so if you got the money, I'd pick a setup. You'll probably get your money's worth out of them. But enough about parts. Let's discuss some tips to make life easier. First, when you remove that foam piece that goes across from one strut bar to the other, you'll notice a cable that runs along the top front. Just pull it out of that channel upwards, and then you can put the foam completely away from your car where it's out of your way, and then you can drape the cable across the top center of your motor so it's also out of the way. It's super easy to get the cable back in the channel whenever you go to reassemble everything. When you remove the trim crap to get to the back 2 plugs, you'll notice that the positive battery post on the left side of the engine bay is exposed. I measured this across to ground, and it's definitely hot. If you accidentally touch it with the back of your ratchet while you're unscrewing a plug, you'll short it to ground, and you'll have a bad time. Don't do that. If your post isn't covered like mine, just cover it with electrical tape or latex glove or something to avoid shorts. Safety first. When you remove the coil packs, you'll notice a latch has a hole, and you can put your finger through it to pull up on it. Unfortunately, it's pretty sharp and it takes quite a bit of force, so what I found it's easy to do is just to pull the socket off your ratchet, and then you can use your ratchet as like a hook to pull the coil pack out with. Last tip, but probably the most important, the actual hole for the spark plug, the hole that the spark plug screws into, isn't parallel to the hole in the cylinder head that goes down to the plug. So if you see from this video, the plug lines up at the bottom of the hole, but not the top of the hole. So when you screw your new plug in, you'll need to screw it with your socket extension touching the bottom of the hole to ensure that you got the threads lined up. Because if you don't do that, you're going to cross thread and you're going to have a bad time. But obviously, there's a chance your car might be slightly different. So just shine a flashlight down your spark plug hole and just confirm that yours is the same situation as mine. But it's definitely a really important thing. Because if you try to screw it in from the top with your socket extension touching the top of the spark plug hole, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to cross thread. And like I said, that's never good. So anyway, it's not hard, but it's not cake. But hopefully these tips will help make your plug swap just a tiny bit easier. Anyway, thanks for watching. Good luck.